Hi, subscribers. I've just come back from Yorkshire. I've had a wonderful Easter weekend. Um, Now, I have to say that on my return journey, I caught sight of this basically a Dear Deirdre letter in The Guardian, and I think actually this is probably an important topic for us. Now, of course, I'm revisiting a boring old chestnut here, and I don't want my channel to be defined simply by this kind of topic, but I don't want this channel to be aimed at frustrated young men. I also want this channel to be aimed at more mature men as well, especially those who are about my age, people in their 40s, but also men in their 50s and even 60s, um, who are probably struggling to come to terms with the fact that our society has changed an awful lot in the last 20 to 30 years. And I think that there's actually a lot of men out there, probably 10, 20 years older than me, who probably had girlfriends, who probably went on dates in past years, decades ago, were very popular back in their day. Probably, were on the party scene, headed out with their mates, got drunk every weekend, that sort of thing. They were popular, they fitted in, they had great jobs. But now, they've fallen through the cracks. And I think this is a huge, rapidly growing problem, as I'm sure many of you here on YouTube are very well aware of. It's much, much harder now for average to, I would say competent, intelligent, even good looking guys, to catch a woman's attention nowadays. Now, I remember years ago, my father, back when he was a computing lecturer, he and his colleagues, they used to have this debate every single year because they were partly responsible for marking students' exam papers. And they used to always ask the question, why is it, for example, that this year more students, a higher percentage of students, failed the exam? Is it because the students are less competent than last year's intake, or is it because standards have risen? Why is it harder for graduates to secure relevant technical jobs compared to this time last decade? Again, is it because the current generation of students is less competent, or is it because standards in the industry have risen? Now, I'm sure that many of you will agree that when it comes to the dating scene, women's standards and expectations have risen substantially, certainly over the last 20 years and definitely over the last two generations. There is much, much less incentive for women, frankly, to want to go out with us. Let's not kid ourselves, because what can we bring to the table? What can we bring into a woman's life which she can't acquire for herself? In most cases, the answer is probably nothing. So let me get down to business. I'm sure that quite a few of you will be interested. So here we go. Excuse me, just a moment. Sorry, it's been a long, exhausting journey. That's better. Here we go. So, quote, "I'm fit and intelligent but can't get a date. Should I give up?" Unquote. So that's the title. Now, by the way, I'm not going to comment on Philippa Perry's response because she's basically issued a public response. I can leave you to click on the link and read it for yourself. I'm just going to. I feel that I need to weigh in on this subject here because I'm actually going to be quite harsh here. I'm taking the kid gloves off here. But it's not because I'm better than this person. It's just because. And it's not because I'm a doomer and a defeatist. I mean, let's just get rid of all the stupid monikers right now. Let's forget about incel, old cell, and doomer and blah blah blah. Come on, let's forget about all that stuff just now. The thing is, I really need to weigh on this. What is really just an old chestnut on this channel, because what I've had to do, as many of you subscribers know, in recent years, is I've had to reprogram myself. Now, just like an investigative journalist or a science researcher, there's you can spend years conducting test after test after test after test, and before you conducted your experiments, you set two hypotheses. You set an alternative hypothesis, which is, if I can make modifications, make various changes and improvements to myself, I will eventually attract a woman and go on a date with her. Or There is the null hypothesis, which is no matter what I try to do, given the current circumstances and my current limitations, even if I do try to improve myself in certain ways, I still won't get their attention. Now, because I'm growing old, I'm middle-aged, I'm definitely not a spring chicken and haven't been for many years, I've had to reprogram my mind. And basically, I am, well, I wouldn't say, I haven't just conceded, but I am now learning to embrace a future where I will spend the rest of my life single and not having anything to do with women at all. And you know something? That life is actually quite equitable. It's perfectly livable. You can still find fulfillment and happiness and meaning in that life. In fact, you're probably more likely to find fulfillment, meaning, and happiness in your life when you don't have all these burdens and issues and responsibilities tying you down. So anyway, let's get on with the case. Shut up, Malcolm. Right, so let's get right into this. Let me see if I can. That's better. Not sure whether you can see this, by the way. Quote, scusi, as they say in Italy. Quote, I've had some short relationships, been on many dates, and had one long-term relationship a while ago now where I was dumped in the day before we planned to get married. Red flag there, by the way. Sorry, carry on. Quote, I put a lot of effort into online dating, but the final straw was sending quality personal messages to 47 different women over 6 months and receiving nil positive replies. Yeah, we can all relate to that. Quote, I'm in my late 50s, slim, fit, tall, of average and conventional appearance, articulate, humorous and intelligent. Okay, unquote. Let's stop there. So, I think I've said almost everything I need to say in response to that first paragraph. So, he thinks that he's perfectly qualified, and he's got experience, he's been on dates in the past. He even was in a more serious relationship at one time, although I'm not sure why. Suddenly it disintegrated just before they got married. I'm not going to make any inferences there, but I just think that is a bit strange. Now, we can all relate to this, subscribers. So he says he puts a lot of effort into online dating. Oh dear, 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 dear. Waste of time. Waste of time. Okay, so I'm afraid this is where I fire my first shot. In rejoinder. Online dating websites are like cemeteries. They are littered with tombstones of broken dreams. Online websites are places where your hopes of ever enjoying any kind of romance with somebody, where it all goes to die, basically. You will not find anyone through an online dating website. I guarantee you that right now, especially if you are not looks-max, using a moniker, and especially when you are an old man. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? An old man approaching 60. I know this. I've talked about this in endless videos. Many of my subscribers have produced many videos in this same topic. When you hit your 30s, you're beginning to approach a kind of expiry date. It's not just women who have a biological clock. Men have a biological clock, so to speak, as well. Certainly, by the time men reach mid-30s and older, the dating scene suddenly becomes eerily quiet. Now, it's partly because women, our generation, many of them are married or they're in relationships and they have children and they're just too busy. But it's also just because, in many cases, a lot of women, they want to go out with, a younger man who's got more to offer, who's more exciting, who's more energetic. Whereas, and I can feel it within myself. I mean, I'm 41 and I feel that I've got a lot less boundless energy than I did 15, 20 years ago. I'm not really up for jetting off abroad. I'm not going to do something daft like, go parachuting or something mad like that. I don't go out there and get drunk. I mean, I've not actually taken alcohol in over a decade, in many, many years. I just, I moved on from all that. I grew up. Now, I mean, I'm not completely dismissing the idea that older people in their 50s and 60s and 70s can go on a date, can enjoy a bit of romance, maybe a sort of convenient relationship of some kind. I mean, of course, there are exceptions, but the thing is, I think, frankly, he's wasting his time when it comes to online dating websites. I've experimented on and off with online dating websites. Zoosk, Match.com, OkCupid, Bumble. I even came across a really stupid one, total scam called Yes Dates. and there's other scam ones. There's like Amorely. The thing is, online dating websites exist for one reason only: to hemorrhage, to bleed billions of dollars, yen, yuan, pounds, euros out of miserable, desperate, lonely men. That's really what online dating websites do. Online dating websites do not help you fulfill your dreams. Quite the opposite. If anything, online dating websites they're like little mirages. You see a woman and you think, oh, she's nice. Send a message, nothing, nihil. I've never been contacted by a woman, a real woman that is, on a dating website. Never. So that's his first fatal flaw, is he's tried online dating sites. Nah, don't even go there, mate. Don't even go there. And yes, it speaks for itself. He's learned the hard way. Quote, but the final straw was sending quality personal messages to 47 different women over 6 months and receiving nil positive replies, unquote. Well, subscribers, I'm sure that you're just as surprised at that as I am. But I have to say, here's the nub, and it's in the last sentence. Quote, I'm in my late 50s, slim, fit, tall, of average and conventional appearance, articulate, humorous and intelligent, unquote. Okay, stop the coach. Right. Listen, mate. I'm as ugly as fuck, alright? I've got bad teeth. I work in a cruddy, low-paid job where I don't really have much in the way of transferable skills. I don't have great career prospects. I'll never be able to move into my own place. And I'm growing old. Do you think that I am eligible to go out with somebody? Now, you say that you're slim, you're fit, you're tall, average, conventional appearance, articulate, humorous and intelligent. Okay. Okay, fine. This is the Guardian, but I think if you're going to label yourself with these almost hyperbolic descriptors, I think some photographic evidence probably wouldn't be out of the question, mate. I don't know. Maybe the Guardian doesn't post people's photographs, but I think you need to prove that. Where are the receipts? I mean, I'm not saying that you're a liar. You could be right. In which case, it's the other explanation, which is maybe it's just because women's expectations are so high nowadays that even someone like you doesn't fit the bill anymore. Well, in which case, you need to do what I've had to do, what many of my subscribers have had to do. You need to reconfigure your life. You need to reprogram your mind and say, right, well, even though you had some experience in the past, the kind of life you want to live, it's no longer attainable. You need to think about how you're going to live your life in a different way. Because once you reject the alternative hypothesis and stick with the null hypothesis, once you begin to build the rest of your life on a new hypothesis, saying, right, okay, so I'm going to be single for the foreseeable future. So how do I build my life around that? And, once you come to an acceptance, not just concede, not just, be defeatist, not be bitter about it, just when you come to a factual what's the word? Prosaic acceptance of the fact that you are no longer eligible. Women do not desire you anymore. Once you come to a placid acceptance of that, then, your life, it becomes kind of broke down. It begins to make sense again. You can begin to move on. Once you come to a recognition, an acknowledgement, it's like, have you ever read the 12 steps? Step number one of the 12 steps is you have to come to an acknowledgement that you are failing in what it is you're trying to do. You have failed. And maybe it's not your fault. Maybe it's not because you've got innate failings or something. But the thing is, you're wanting a type of life. You're wanting something in your life which simply isn't is simply not going to materialize. And I say again, I'm not calling you out, I'm not making accusations, but you say that you're slim, you're fit, you're tall, you're average, conventional appearance, articulate, humorous, and intelligent. Are you? Be absolutely honest with yourself. Are you intelligent? Well, I would say that you're probably more intelligent than me, yes, but are you really intelligent as far as women are concerned? And the thing is, do you think women just want a man who's intelligent? Do you not think that women are more interested in other qualities, especially social skills, especially independent abilities, and the ability to fix things? Like rewire the house and fix machines and sort the car and do all the complex, difficult, technical stuff which women don't like to do themselves. Look, you got to ask yourself that question: what can you offer a woman? What can you bring into a woman's life which she, well, let's say, can't be bothered doing herself? Now, I just thought I'd throw that question out there. I'm not going to jump to conclusions, so let's move on to the next one. Next paragraph. Quote, "From hard work and living modestly, I have been able to retire and now volunteer for a charity. The task is mainly helping the sick and disabled. I also co-run a local social group for get-togethers and outings to help not only me, but others to meet people. I discount those who are too old, those who I wouldn't go on a seesaw with, and women who say, done that and got the t-shirt about relationships. And there's rarely anyone left." Unquote. Okay, well, talk about self-sabotage. So that's a paragraph of immense contrasts, basically going from one end of the spectrum to the other. So apparently he has been able to retire because he has been very prolific, prodigious. He's worked incredibly hard, and obviously he's managed to accrue savings over the years to the point where he no longer has to go out to work. Okay, well done there. He now volunteers for a charity, helping the sick and disabled. I don't know, it sounds a bit biblical, doesn't it? He co-runs a social group for get-togethers and outings. Now, the thing is, I see a few red flags just all over these first two sentences. He sounds very cynical to me. Why is he volunteering for a charity? Why is he helping the sick and disabled? I have to say, this is the toughest message which I need to deliver here. I'm going to. This is going to be a shot over the bow here. My question to him is, well, why are you working for a charity? Do you genuinely care about these supplicants, these sick and disabled individuals, these unfortunates? Do you actually care about them? And I'm saying this as someone who used to be a treasurer in the brass band, somebody who used to be an audio technician in a local church, someone who, back in my mid-20s, I used to volunteer. I used to help out at a youth club back in Fife. Why are you doing voluntary work? Is it so that you might perchance encounter a nice woman out there and perhaps go on a date with her? Because if that's your answer, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself, if that's your answer, my advice to you, frankly, is you need to get out. Get out. Because if you're doing voluntary work, if you're doing charitable work, you know, cynically for ulterior personal motives, mate, not only are you just going to make yourself more miserable, but you're not really going to help these people in the long run if you're only just there to effectively help yourself. Now, of course, I know that I'm not providing any positive advice here. You know, you're asking, well, why? How do I actually meet a woman out there? How do I meet a woman out there? Well, maybe you can't. Maybe you can't. You know, and I've quoted this many times before. I know this sounds very corny, but as Darth Vader said to Luke Skywalker, you are beaten. It is useless to resist. Do not allow yourself to be destroyed. Okay, here's a more recent one. You might not have watched Trainspotting 2. There's a moment when when Mark says to Spud, as they're jogging up Arthur's Seat, and Mark says to Spud, look, you're an addict, so be addicted, but be addicted to something else. You've got to channel it. Now, perhaps maybe that's what this man is doing. He's volunteering for a charity. He's retired from working, you know, from being a wage cook. He wants to do something more useful. Well, the thing is, I hope that he is genuinely passionate about what he's doing for that charity, for those people, for those beneficiaries, and not so that he can chase women. The thing is, I mean, I'm in my 40s now, and I intend to live like a 40-something. I don't want to live the way that I lived in my 30s, and certainly not the way I lived in my 20s. And, you know, when I reach my 50s, God permitting, if I reach my 50s, when I'm approaching retirement age, let's not kid ourselves, believe me, I am not going to be living like some desperate, frustrated 30-something man, you know, wearing a suit and tie, you know, he just wants to meet up with a nice woman and perhaps settle down with her and all that. Nah. I mean, I think if I was able to, I would like to retire probably at 60, which is not going to happen, by the way, but I would like to perhaps retire at 60, but believe me, I am not going to retire, walk away from the office and go chasing women and go on dating websites. Absolutely no frigging way. No way. Not least because, I mean, I know this within myself. I mean, I'm 41 now. There is no way, even if a woman actually wanted to live with me, there is no way that I'm going to get married. There is no way. I do not want to be changing nappies when I'm turning 50. I don't want to be arguing with teenage offspring in my mid-60s when I'm basically approaching retirement age. No way. No way. You, as you go through the different stages in life, you've got to find different things to do, which are pertinent and, I would say, appropriate to this stage of life. I mean, as some of you subscribers have noticed, I've become more interested in ornithology. I'm tuning into birdsong. I'm starting to investigate local bird species. I mean, last decade, I was into a local brass band. I was actually uploading brass band music, as some of you remember. You've got to find different hobbies, but I have to say, especially when it comes to volunteering for a charity, you have to be doing that for altruistic motives and not for your own personal ends. Otherwise, no, it's pointless. That's all I can say. So anyway, let's get into the disaster zone, which is the third sentence. So he says that he rejects women who are too old. I would like to know, frankly, what age too old is for his liking, because he is in his late 50s after all. Those he wouldn't go on a seesaw with, again, I don't know what that means. It'd be useful if he actually elaborated on that. Or women who say, done that and got the t-shirt about relationships, and there's rarely anybody left. Well, the thing is, mate, how else can I put it? You're growing old. You're growing old. I mean, I hope that this man hasn't been trying to contact women, I would say, aged under 45, if he's in his late 50s. I hope not. This I don't know. I pick up a lot of bad vibes, I have to say, from this second paragraph. I don't know about you subscribers, but I mean, just reading that, reading that last sentence in the second paragraph, I mean, I feel like saying to this man, just forget it. Forget dating. Just drop it, okay? And live the rest of your life in a different way. Let go of this drivel, this far-fetched, this absurdity in your mind. I mean, just leave it behind. Yes, I mean, the thing is, he went on, I mean, he was dating women probably back in his 20s. He's had experiences in the past. He's had past relationships. Why can't he just swallow his pride and just be thankful for what he experienced in the past? Why? I mean, he comes across, frankly, as an ingrate. Be grateful. Stop defining yourself by deficit and start defining yourself by what you actually do have or what you enjoyed in the past. I mean, this man, he had dates, he had relationships in the past. I never had a date in the past. I've never been out with anyone. I was never even in a friend zone, not even when I was 18, not even when I was 21 or 25. Nothing, zero, nada. The closest I ever came to anything was, and I remember this, when I was catching the morning bus going into Dundee, back in my mid-20s, and there was this lovely, gorgeous young woman, about maybe 2 or 3 years younger than me. She was a student, I was a postgraduate, and I yearned for the day when she would sit next to me. I waited 2 years, and then one day the bus was busy, and she sat next to me. And I just sat in silence. I didn't move a muscle. And after 15 minutes of heaven, she disembarked. That was it. That was it. That was it. I mean, that was the highlight for me. I remember it. September 2005. Did you ever see, I mean, those of you who are older like me, did you ever see the film City Slickers? When, is it Mitch is talking to Curly, the old cowboy, and he asks Curly, did he ever go out with anybody? Did he ever meet a woman? And Curly said he saw a woman once, when he was much younger. He saw her just in the distance. And Mitch asks Curly, so what did you do? And Curly replied, well, he just got on his horse and he took off. Because he knew it was never going to get better than that. He avoided what could have just been a smorgasbord of agony and disappointment. And this, I mean, I think maybe this man, who's now in his late 50s, was probably very attractive, very popular 30 years ago. 40 years ago. That's a long time ago. He needs to let go. He needs to change. He needs to reprogram his mind. He needs to construct a lattice, a framework on how he's going to live his life based on a different presupposition. It's not really worth me commenting on the last 2 paragraphs, but I'll read them out anyway, just for your edification. So, quote, I've recently dated someone who talked long term only to end it abruptly without giving a reason. This has been devastating. We only ever hugged. What can I say? Sorry. Unquote. Well, I feel bad for him, but, well, you just have to let it go. I'm sorry, mate, but I mean, if you ever worked in business, you know that if you're running a private business, 9 out of 10 prospective customers, people who walk through the door, just walk out and not buy anything. It's harsh, but I'm afraid they don't owe you anything. As many people have told me, they don't owe me anything. Anyway, let's go into the last paragraph. Quote, I have thoroughly disproved the saying, there's someone for everyone. There obviously isn't. Should I resign myself to being alone for the rest of my days, or should I keep trying and hoping to meet someone special, knowing that repeatedly failing is damaging to my self-esteem and my mental health? Unquote. Why are you alone? Now, I'm not being judgmental when I ask that question, but why is this man alone? Doesn't he have siblings, nephews, nieces? Are his parents still around? Is he alone when he's working for that charity? He chose to be more alone when he walked out of his job and decided to retire early. That was his choice. But, there's nothing stopping him from just going out there and just taking up a part-time job. If nothing else, just to get out there and meet people and make himself useful to them. For so long as you have value, so long as you have something that people out there want, then you're not going to be always entirely alone. Not unless you're some sort of work from home, online trader type person. I mean, that's a bit depressing, but seriously, I mean, is he alone all the time? This is the point where I think he's not being entirely honest with himself. I mean, if he's volunteering for a charity, helping the poor and, poor and disabled, the sick and the disabled. Wow, that sounds like the Gospel of Luke. I mean, spend more time with them. Really get to know these people. I mean, if you're going to talk about the sick and disabled, if we're going to get kind of biblical here, read Jesus' parable about the rich man who organised a banquet and invited all his best friends, but each and every one of his friends, one after another, said, I'm sorry, I can't come. I'm sorry, and turned down the invitation. And so this man, this king organising a banquet, tells his servants, right, go out into the streets and invite, the destitute, the homeless, the poor, the infirm, the lame, the crippled. Just bring in the people off the streets. Just thought I'd put this out here. I think this has dragged on for quite long enough.